Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. Welcome to Women in Tech Trailblazers. We are back for another episode, and I am so super excited about our guest for today. We have the Marsha Shelly with us. So a little bit about Marsha. She is an accomplished professional. She has a diverse background in technical account management, case auditing, disability analysis, education, and human services. She is currently based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and she serves as a technical account manager in the property management software industry. Marsha is recognized as an asset, providing critical support and resolving complex software issues while fostering strong client relationships. Relationships are key. Her expertise in case management and quality assurance contribute to the efficiency and accuracy of operations within the organization that she's currently in. And she is currently pursuing a master's in business administration with a focus in IT management. Go girl. We need more women. That's why we're here. She's continuing to serve both clients and individuals professionally and personally through her community. I love watching what you're doing in the community. She is the founder of her own personal brand, Keep Going Sis, in which she assists, encourages, mentors other women of all walks of life through a variety of challenges. Throughout their career, Marsha has demonstrated a commitment of excellence, professionalism, and continuous learning, making significant contributions in her respective field. Marsha, welcome to Women in Tech Trailblazers.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate the invite, and I just appreciate being a part today. Thanks again.
Yeah, well, we're so happy to have you. And I always like to kick off the podcast with kind of stating our purpose. We're really trying to dig in and talk about topics that matter to girls and women in technology, bringing awareness to many topics that are never really talked about. And our goal is to really dig into that authenticity piece. And so with that being said, what does authenticity mean to you as a woman in tech?
Well, I think it's just showing up as your true self. It's not identifying to look like anyone else, because oftentimes, there's many stigmas attached and things of that nature, but just showing up as yourself with what your interests are, what you bring to the table, and just kind of focusing and honing in on your valuable skills as an individual.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think we've heard a lot of different versions of authenticity, but it always comes back to like your core innate person. Like, who are you?
Who are you? Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely.
I think tying into that, like we all have this different journey. I would say life in general, right? But I think the thing that Jordan and I hear over and over again, and I actually love talking to so many different people about it, is that our journey into technology has also looked very different. Like you have some people that started out and like they knew since they were little kids they wanted to be like a developer or an engineer, and then most of the rest of us have some like interesting way that we've come into tech. So Marsha, what has your journey looked like coming into technology?
Oh, for sure. So I'm one of those that definitely didn't see it. And if you would have told me as a kid that this is where I'd end up, I'd have been like, yeah, right. I don't think so. So for me, as you described, my background has been pretty much in human services. I've worked with people hands-on and things like that. So for me, I was a case manager, and during the pandemic just opened up a role at my present company to which there was a need for case management. And so that's how my door kind of opened for me. And from that moment on, I've just been afforded the opportunity to kind of enhance my skills with becoming an account manager, and just I'm kind of leaning into the sales world just a bit. It's just kind of teeter-tottering. And so my journey has been very unconventional. It's something where, I've reached out to Tiffany and just said, hey, what does this look like? How do I plan my journey? Where can I go from here? Because again, it was so unfamiliar to me and such an unforeseen thing that even after the pandemic, I had to learn how to pivot and figure out kind of just what do I want to do? Where do I want to pursue educationally that can kind of give me an advantage? Because I am I am seasoned somewhat, but I didn't just graduate college yesterday, if you know what I mean. So for me, it's one of those things where later in life, starting a career, it's like you kind of want to get a head start on things. So it's been very unconventional, but I can say I've enjoyed the journey thus far.
I can ask you a question based on that is totally random, but I keep running into Marsha and I are the same age. And so I keep running into so many different women that we are midlife. We'll just call it that. So we're coming into midlife, and no matter what you originally set out to do or how many amazing things that you accomplished, we are coming to this place of, I have no idea actually what I want to do with my life. Or, you know what I mean? It's not like I haven't done anything. Like, I've done all these things, but do I still want to do all those things? And like, maybe I don't. And is that okay? Like, is that a true statement? Like, do you feel that? Because I'm just over here like, yeah,
absolutely.
I don't know.
I totally agree with that. That whole statement of when you were a kid is what do you want to be when you grow up is so cliche at this moment. You know, it's one of those things where it's like, I thought I wanted to be this, I thought I wanted to be that, but life takes you on a different journey. You learn yourself different. We continue to evolve. We continue to learn things. We're always a student, right? And so as you learn different things become of interest, and the world is changing. You know, technology is not what it was when we were kids. You know, I had a conversation with someone about Google. I remember when Google was so cliche, it's like, Google it, no way. And now we're looking at Google like the new dictionary. And what is a paper dictionary, right? So yeah, it definitely, as a midlife woman in this stage in life, I can definitely appreciate us continuing to evolve and continuing to learn and not being closed-minded and just embracing the change.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and I think to that point, right, the people that we look up to are the people that actually embrace the change. They were in careers a little bit longer because they embraced the change and moved along in their career, right? That was a challenge for them. What would you say have you incurred or encountered in your career that you've overcome and you've seen as a challenge to kind of bring you to the place that you are now?
Well, I think it's more so just, again, I always go back to always being a student, and it's just being in unfamiliar territory, right? Because this is a place that I've never been. So I'm hearing verbiage that I've never heard of. I'm seeing people that a different type of people, a different environment, and everything is foreign. So I think for me, a challenge is not being the imposter syndrome, not allowing it to kind of make you shrink back into where you're not willing to invite the information in and just kind of embrace the people because they may not look like you. They may not speak like you. Their conversations are different. They have a different level of interest. So I think as a challenge, if I have to say one, I think it is just not being afraid of the unknown, right? Or the unfamiliar territory, for sure.
Yeah, I read a post today and it said, embrace the uncomfortable. Like,
absolutely. Do it afraid. Yeah. We know that.
Do it afraid. That's like literally one of my favorites. And okay, now we're going to get into the meat of like what I'm actually really, all of this is great, but I'm really, really excited. So you mentioned, or I mentioned as I kind of introduced you about your brand, and keep going, sis. And I think I'm going to ask a silly question of, what does that mean to you, and what keeps you motivated to kind of keep going? Because we hear those words and like, okay, we understand what those words mean, but I think there's something deeper than just the words that are said there. And I want you to talk to us about that.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So keep going in itself is just a matter. It is just that. It is a literal thing, but it's understanding that adversity is going to come because we don't know what today is going to hold. We don't know what tomorrow is going to hold, but the premise is that no matter what comes, you're going to keep going forward, right? That you're going to keep looking for something else to keep you motivated. And you ask, what keeps me motivated? Well, it's simply understanding that my purpose is connected to someone else, and that if I don't move forward, that somebody else is going to be left behind, right? Because oftentimes we can look, and I can negotiate with myself not to get off the couch. But if I know Tiffany is depending on me, I'm going to show up, right? I'm going to show up because she needs it, and it may be the thing that she needs, right? And so sometimes keep going just means that, and it happens to be, keep going, sis, but it applies to men and women. But in this instance, I'll say it just understanding that our purpose is, and our small task, whether it be small or large, is attached to someone else. So that would be my purpose and what makes me keep going.
Okay, look, so I don't care who you are, what you believe. I don't care about any of that. What I care about is that, like, this world is cray. I think there's not anyone that cannot say that we are not navigating crazy times right now. And I think that in the craziness, who you have in your corner and who you have showing up for you, like you just said, right? You're not going to let someone else down because you're going to keep showing up because they're depending on you to show up. But we have gone into this society, I feel like has gone into this, like, I can do it all by myself. I'm going to do everything by myself. Like, and the value of community and the value of connection continuously goes down and down and down. Listen, I love technology. I've been in technology for over 23 years, but a lot of that plays into it. But I'm honing in on the piece about community and about showing up, because it's really, really important to know that on your days when you don't have it together, because we're all going to have those days. I don't know about y'all, but I sit in my closet sometimes and let my tears go, and then I suck it up and pretend like I'm strong and go back out. But who do you have pouring into you? Like, who you have pouring into you and speaking that life into you when you can't remember? Like, is that kind of what you're talking about? Like, don't you need that? Is that a part of your brand?
So for sure. So it's one of those things where you realize like you have to be surrounded by like-minded individuals. You have to be somewhere. We may not be doing the same thing, but we have to have some kind of commonality to where we can relate, so that there's something that's going to feed me, right? Because iron sharpens iron. We know this. And it's one of those things where, you mentioned like in technology, AI is a big thing. Everybody knows it. And I had a conversation just today about that, just how AI is kind of replacing a lot of things that we do as people, hands on and things of that nature. But to speak to your point, I have some friends, you continue to find networks and things like that. So you find places, social media is a big thing, right? And technology is always at our fingertips. So you use your resources. You find people that you find value. Again, if you don't have someone that's connected directly to you that you know personally, sometimes you have to go outside of that bubble because we think it's just those around us, but the internet is wide open. So, there are Facebook groups that, for whatever your level of interest is, product, as you mentioned, if it's any kind of sales, if it's any kind of programmatic thing, or whatever it is that your level of interest is in the tech world or otherwise, I have networks and things people that I follow, individuals that you can reach out to and just kind of always continue to learn and look for resources in that way.
Yeah. Well, and I would say that's one of your strategies. Would you say you have any habits? Like personally, I have a habit of blocking my calendar so astronomically perfect down to the minute that if I didn't, I think I would freak out in a day. But do you have any habits that you would say really helped you maintain a fast pace in your industry?
Let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break.
So for me, it's one of those things where again, I say it like that, and we speak from our perspective, right? So when I say it's one of those things, it's just what I do on a routine. I guess if I have to pick one, I would say that it's just knowing what works and kind of rinse and repeat on a daily. Is if you have a certain project that you're working on, you start back where you left off, leaving notes immediately, making sure that if something is happening, if you see something, say something, something's not working, make mention of things like that. So as far as habits that I've created for myself, use your resources. If you have a software program that's on your computer, I don't know, some people use Asana, Monday, or OneNote, and things like that. Whatever your short note keeping process is, make it a habit to use that and keep it at your fingertips. So for me, that's one of the things that I've learned to do as I've begun to navigate, because again, I am very new to the tech world. So a lot of it is unfamiliar. So I just grab what's at my fingertips. And I've been a paper person, right? Because at this age, we're used to having pens and paper, and I love some stationery. So, give me a pretty pen, that's me, so I don't know how to do it too much else. But yeah, to speak to your point, is just maybe making sure to see what's working, keeping up with the process, and trying to create a flow on the regular.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it. For me, I suck at documentation, and that's like the number one thing, especially in like a tech sales position.
Absolutely.
Really notifying everyone, and you can't just write it down because that doesn't notify anyone.
Right. Everyone else needs to see it as well. It's good for you, yep. But how are they going to know? Absolutely.
Yep. Absolutely.
Okay, so who or what, so it could be a who or a what, or maybe both, has been your biggest source of inspiration and support on your journey?
Well, you know what? I have this one friend that I've known since I was like middle school, right? I know this one lady that you may know her. I don't know. She goes by the name of Tiffany. I do, right?
But not me, a different Tiffany.
No, actually you. No, I really do mean you.
I thought you were talking about our other friend, Tiff.
No, I mean you. No, as far as that is hilarious. Nope. This one. So yeah, you are inspiration just in your journey and continuing to just to know that, you've accomplished so much and you've been a resource for me. And as I've started this journey, to be able to reach out to you and to see you creating a space for women to know that and watch it grow, the new chapters and things like that. So I see your work, and it is admirable. It is absolutely admirable. So you definitely have been an inspiration for me, for sure.
Hey, I'm not gonna cry. I've never cried on our show before, so I'm not gonna do that. But actually, okay, I totally thought you were talking about Tiff, and I was like, oh, that's why I was like, yay, that means a lot. I think most of us don't really do what we do for accolades, right? But sure. I think that the core of who I am is other people, right? And so nothing that I do has anything to do with me. And I think that's the reason that it shines, is because I truly care about other people. And I think we need to create spaces like this where people can hear that actually that matters, and we are supposed to do that. And I know we're all trying to make our way, and I know we're trying to succeed, but I think the success we're all different. We're all made different. But I think the success for me, I feel like, comes from making more seats. Like, we have an entire population of people, not even just women, right? We've got women, we've got so many underserved populations that we could either just let exist and be fine because it's not our situation or our particular thing, right. Or we could
your own bubble.
Yes.
Sure.
We could make seats. Like, y'all, I'm hiring and I refuse. Like, I don't care. Like, I refuse to hire all men. Like, there are some amazing qualified men and I've made some offers, but we have to also make seats for women at the table. If we don't, then who will?
That's right. But I think one of the main things, and this wasn't necessarily one of your questions, but it's making it visible, and it's making it understandable, and making it, like you said, platforms like this create a space where people can understand that it can look like anything. You don't have to look like anyone or any particular person, because in the tech space, from what you hear, we think that it's a box underneath the table. It's not that big box under the table anymore. We've evolved at so many levels, and it's not just hardware, it's software, it's sales, it's product, it's so many intricate pieces that keep all of it moving. And I think what you're doing here creates a space for people to learn, because I've watched the podcast and I've listened, and it's been very informative, and just like, oh, I didn't realize that was a part of this. And so you're doing an amazing thing. Definitely you.
Jordan, give me your hand. High five. Like, because that was really what we set out to do. Like, the thing we try to communicate is that we didn't start a podcast just to have a podcast. Like, there are 84 million podcasts. Like, we are both extremely passionate about really drilling into what authentically makes us us. And that's different. Like, Jordan and I are very different. Like, all of us are different, but creating a space for us to talk about the differences, to talk about the things that we as women mostly don't talk about, because it's easier just to kind of shove it in a pocket and keep pretending like everything's fine. But it's really important that we talk about the things that need to be talked about. And that's our goal here.
Well, and I also think that we come from very different points of view on a lot of things, and that I think that's healthy, right? So when we have these conversations, Tiffany and I weren't, even if we were raised by the same people, we weren't. But even if we had been raised by the same people, I can tell you, me and my sister are very different, and we have different points of view. And just being able to sit there and listen to everyone's point of view, because those first couple of questions we always ask in the podcast, they're all the same, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone gives us a different answer. And sometimes, authenticity is pretty close, right? But everyone has their own different flair. And it's really fun to get to see that, and then also be able to see that or understand and hear about the person's journey of how they got there. Because if you take our cumulative podcast and you go back and you say, okay, what was the overall theme, right? And really it's perseverance, right?
Absolutely.
Every single person had drive, had someone to help them and push them, but they all came at it completely different, with a completely different mindset and point of view of life, of everything, right? Absolutely. But they all had perseverance. And it's so fun to hear that stream all the way through and really get to understand, what made them them. So I have another question for you. So my question is, what support groups, networks, we know our podcast for sure, but what support groups, networks would you suggest to others in tech, and how can they join? What are your favorite? That kind of thing.
Well, I would just say, okay, so off the top of my head and just remembering, I would just say, again, look up what you're interested in. If you have any type of nationality background, or if you are a woman, man, whatever, women in, so there are women, African American women's sport tech groups that I'm a part of. There are product tech groups that I'm a part of. So whatever your level of interest is, I would say, look for that. Just, it's a Google. Seriously, it's really not that complicated. Someone has created it. If not, then you should create it. There's a space. And then, others join it. So to answer your question off the top of my head, I'm not remembering the specific names of the group, but organizations such as yours, absolutely. I do plug that and suggest that because it's good. And even for like younger children or young adults that are starting out, I definitely recommend it for that as well. So I would just say for anyone that's looking for something, find a group that you or a network for your level of interest. If it's some type of SQL, any kind of code writing, or look up tech code writers, entry level, new beginners, whatever it is, put those words in and I guarantee you something will come up for you.
No, I think that's a great statement, not really pointing to any one organization because like you said, if it doesn't exist and you don't Google it and it come up in your Google, right? Then make one, right?
Yeah.
Then put it together.
Because one thing that I'll say is that sometimes we can feel like what I'm thinking may not be okay, or is it right? Am I wrong for thinking that this space should be present? And it's not. And I think that's the beauty of this industry. What I've learned is that it can literally look like any of us. It can be anything, and there is a space for everyone, big, little, and small. I'll say that again.
Yeah, if you can dream it, you can have it.
Absolutely. Yes. I love that.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. They have to see us. They have to see us to be us.
Representation. That's true.
Yes, it is key. So last question, and going to just get a little deep, but we're coming up towards the end of the podcast. So if you could leave one piece of advice for our listeners to really kind of, how are they making room for people? How are they keep going? Like, what would be your one final piece of advice?
Literally keep going. Don't be afraid of failure. Don't be afraid of what it looks like, because sometimes you could have started over 10 times and the 11th time be your golden egg. And don't be worried about what others think and how it looks. And just be, again, that word that we started with is the word that I'll end with, authenticity. It's very important. Be true to yourself, because if it feels good, it's going to be good and you'll do good. And so good will come from it, right? And so I just encourage anyone, whether that be man, woman, or child, to literally keep going. And if it's not working, then, it's okay to pivot. Don't be afraid to revamp your process, to seek new resources, and a door will open even when you feel like you're not going anywhere. Movement is movement.
Yeah, I think that's a great statement. Just keep swimming, because we're talking to women in tech, and a lot of that could be, or some of that could be entrepreneurs too, right? Like, absolutely. It's okay to fail. Like, try it out. If you thought you want to do it and you think you can, then do it, because listen, everyone fails. Like, that's the biggest fear for entrepreneurs too in tech is, I'm going to fail and everyone's going to see it. Well, guess what? If you're going to fail, you're going to fail and everyone's going to see it. So try it out.
One other thing that I would add is that if you fail, right, like you hear it and it's so cliche, like you can't succeed if you don't fail. And that is so true. Like, without faith, one of the things that I look back on, and some of my hardest lessons have turned out to be my greatest accomplishments. They have meant so much to me in my journey. And I think that's another thing that I would say and keep going, sis, is a part of being able to look back and see that what happened to you didn't necessarily happen to you, it happened for you, so that you can appreciate where you're going. And that's applicable to any journey, and especially, to be representative to where we are in tech, you have to sometimes hear no, and don't be afraid of that.
Yep.
Yes. My cup is really full. My cup is running over. I absolutely love when we are able to get together, because we are able to talk to so many different people. And honestly, I think we all do a lot in our lives. We all do different things, but making sure that we fill our cup up, making sure that we have people that can tell us just keep going and keep swimming, because there's so much of the world that's telling us the other direction. And so we are just super grateful that you were able to join us today. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much to our audience for listening in. I cannot wait for you guys to hear this episode. It is phenomenal. Also, as the usual, you will see Marsha's socials come across the screen when we are done. So make sure to go out and follow her. Go out and plug in and follow it with the Just Keep Going Sis. I'm telling you, it's amazing. I love watching it. I love the diversity of people that she speaks to. I love hearing theme after theme and person after person, right? We all have our own stories, but it's all reminding us just keep going.
Absolutely.
So,
like, share, follow.
yes. Thank you.
Thank
Have
you.
an amazing day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.